Hey, what is happening live at the first Rising Tide Lessons from Leaders series? Comments are live. I'm hoping everybody can hear us and everything is good. If you could give me a thumbs up in the comments, that would be helpful. And of course, if you have any questions or anything you want me to expand on, I'd be happy to do that in the comments and uh, answer your questions. So, just for an explanation of what we're doing here, this is a new series that we're launching. The Rising Tide is a movement. It's not a sales team or anything like that. It's just a movement of folks that want to help elevate and bring value to other business people, agents, folks in our industry and our community. And so we'll be bringing on high-level folks that are succeeding and doing things well to share what they're doing on this platform, and as hopefully at least once a month, but definitely more frequently as time goes by. So just to get right into this, going to jump over to the slides here. Just as a quick introduction, this is going to be super honest. There's no theory. This is all stuff that we've actually put into practice and have learned along the way. And so we want to be transparent. Nothing is off limits. So if you have any questions, throw them in the comments and I'll be happy to address those and dig deeper if you have a question about something that is covered. Sometimes my perspective can be harsh and honest, so don't be offended if I say something that maybe is a little bit harsh. And of course, please participate. If you have any questions, just drop them in the comments and I'd be happy to take those and answer them in more detail. All right, so just to give you a little bit of history on our sales team and where all of these ideas have come from. We started about 5.5 years ago with a 4-person, actually even before then. I got full-time into real estate in 2015 and really just operated on a little small 4-person unofficial family team with my mom and my stepdad. And then eventually my brother, a couple of years after I got started, my brother got started. And then in 2019, we founded the agency team here at EXP. And that started with like 5 agents. It was my brother and a couple of friends. We weren't very organized. We just wanted to do business together and start to do things in a way that we didn't see them being done here on the island. And that in fast forward 5 short years later, we have 130 agents across all 4 major Hawaiian islands. And we are, for the 3rd year in a row, the #1 sales team in Hawaii for production and units. And nationally, for our company of 90,000 agents, we're number 3 in units currently, and number 5, we kind of go number 4, number 5 in volume. And so there's been a lot that's been accomplished in a short amount of time, and a lot of lessons learned, a lot of mistakes along the way. And that's what we're doing this for, is to share some of those lessons learned and hopefully help contribute to your business and the things that you're doing, and help you achieve your goals. And so just to give you a quick overview of what the production has looked like over the years. In 2019, we did 45 units and 43 million. We ended the year with 9 agents that year. In 2020, there was a little bit of growth. We went to 57 million and 139 units. We ended the year with 22 agents that year. In 2021, obviously things got crazy in 2021, and we went to 135 million and 326 units. We ended the year with 47 agents, and that was the year we really started expanding across the island. Initially, we were just on in Kona and on the west side of the Big Island. We did business kind of island wide, but we didn't have any dedicated agents on the east side. And 2021 was a year when we expanded to the east side of the island. In 2022, we did just shy of 200 million in volume, 520 units, ended the year with 83 agents. And then in 2023, we went to 265 million in volume, 621 units, and 110 agents. And 23 was an awesome year. We expanded to Maui at the beginning of the year, expanded to Oahu in the middle of the year, and then merged with an awesome team on Kauai at the end of the year, and completed the statewide expansion in 2023. So it was a big year, lots of stuff happening, and definitely learned a lot in that process. It's much different expanding kind of locally in your market and then across the island and across multiple islands. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And in 2024, we're on track to do 800 units this year. We've already closed about 250, and we're not through April yet. So continuing to grow, continuing to expand, and continue to have fun. So what we're going to talk about today is unleashing potential. I'm all about systems. And so I look at everything as a system. And these are the 5 major topics we're going to cover today, and that's mindset, your business systems, your daily routine, your relationships, and the technology that you use. So we're going to go into each one of these in more detail one by one. So the first one is, and most important, is definitely mindset. I think this is something that's talked about a lot and not necessarily implemented enough. People know it's important. They talk about it a lot. You hear all kinds of different speakers and there's all kinds of books on it, but you really got to think about what is your mindset, because that is something that's going to set the pace for everybody that you come into contact with and how you view and do business. And so the first foundational aspect of the mindset that we've built the team around has been the mindset of abundance versus scarcity. We have an abundance mindset. We believe that there is plenty enough out there for everybody. This is not a competitive business. There's plenty enough business to go around. And definitely, if you share everything, you will get it back tenfold. And there is no threat to sharing everything that you possibly do. And we do this all the time in lots of different forums, because most people aren't going to do it. Most people will watch this video. I'm going to tell you all of this stuff, and then you're going to go back to doing whatever you were doing before, or just forget about it and not actually implement it. And if there's secret sauce to stuff that has really elevated what we do, is I actually try and implement the things that I learned when I go to a conference, or I hear a great speaker, or I listen to a great podcast. I actually try and implement some of those things, and some of it becomes very successful and some of it doesn't. But you have to implement, because there's so much abundance out there, especially in the terms of knowledge and people wanting to share information with you. So the second thing is belief. You have to believe you can. I think this is a huge limiting factor for most people, is they just don't believe that they're good enough, that they're smart enough, that they weren't born here. They come up with all of these limiting mindsets about what's possible. And for me, one of the biggest values that I had in life was going outside of our market, going to events and seeing people in other places doing things at a really high level, and then looking at them and just believing that, hey, they're not special, they're no different than I am, and I can probably do the same thing. I just gotta work as hard as they did and do things as smart as they were doing it. And so you have to believe. And one of my favorite sayings is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're absolutely right, and you have to decide whether you can or you can't. The third one here is, you are not special. This is a foundational principle to growing a team. You cannot believe that you are the only one that can do everything, and you're the only one that can do anything as good as you can. That is definitely not the case. I've been proven time and time again by many amazing people on our team that they do things much better than I ever could, and I need to get them to do those things, because if I'm doing everything, that means I'm not focusing on the things that I'm good at. And in order to grow and scale your business, you have to give up control to other people, especially people who will do it better than you. And so don't let that hold you back. If you believe you have to do everything, you're never going to grow and scale at a high level, because you're going to get caught doing the things that you really shouldn't be doing and the things you're really not good at. And your ego is holding you back and keeping you believing that you have to be doing those things. And then the last one, avoiding comfort. This is definitely the case, right? All growth is extremely uncomfortable. You get put in difficult business situations, difficult relationship situations. And if you are uncomfortable chasing discomfort and uncomfortable putting yourself in positions that may not feel the best, it's going to be very hard to grow in any way, shape, or form. Definitely, if you just look at regular life, if you want to get in better shape and lose weight, you got to put yourself through some discomfort of exercise. And it's true in business. You have to do the things that other people are not going to want to do. It's that simple. There is an easy path to success, because most people are not willing to do the hard things that are uncomfortable, that are not fun. And if you are willing to do those things and do them at a high level, you can really bypass the competition and exceed at a high level very quickly. So what is your mindset? It's the first thing. These are things that are important to me. They're not necessarily the only way to do them. Think about that, is what are the foundational principles of your mindset and how you approach business every day, and that'll guide you in everything else that you do. All right, so your daily routine. This is something that I'm a humongous believer in. I have discipline equals freedom on my wall right here. I believe that a disciplined daily routine is absolutely critical to success. And do you have one? That's the first question, is, do you just wake up every day and just figure stuff out, or just let the day happen and let the fire start burning and be a firefighter and put them out? Or do you have actually a routine that you have a clear idea of? When I wake up in the morning, for the first 30 minutes, I'm doing this. For the second hour, I'm doing that. For the third hour, I'm doing this, and have a disciplined routine throughout the day that ultimately gives you predictable inputs. At the end of the day, business is all about a system of predictable inputs that gives you predictable outcomes. And we know it's a whole separate webinar, but if you do X amount of calls every day, we can almost predict how many closings you will have per month based on the amount of calls or conversations you have during the day. So do you have a daily routine that creates predictable inputs and then delivers predictable outcomes on the back end? And the best way to probably do this is to aim for a boring life. I always strive to have a very boring and predictable life. If you have an exciting, spontaneous, crazy life, you are probably not succeeding in business because you are not creating the routines to provide you with predictable inputs and predictable outcomes. And so think about that. What are you doing on a daily basis to just have predictability in your life and ensure that you're doing the things that you need to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to achieve the outcomes that are your goals? And so what are your goals? We have to talk about those, and that's on the next slide, but we'll talk about technology first. So technology is obviously a big part of any type of operation. And this is something that you have to really think through foundationally, is what kinds of technology are you going to use? Because the only way to scale your time is via technology and systems that will allow you to do more with less time or automate things on your behalf so you don't have to focus on doing them. And so these are 5 major examples of technology systems, and then some of the types of specific systems that you can use in each one of these areas. So the first one is process management. Like, do you have a way to track a process so members of your team can work together on something? What does your listing process look like, and all of the different things that have to happen? And if you needed other people to help you along that process, is there a way to track it? Some of the examples of this are Sisu is a great piece of software that we used for many years, Monday.com, Asana. There's many different project management, process management, tracking type softwares out there that will allow you to create a predictable system that if you have to add inputs into it and add other people to help you along that process, they know what they got to do and what got done, when it got done, who did it, are there any notes and updates, are there next deadlines, those types of things to manage your time. If you manage all of your time on a piece of paper, it's going to be very hard to scale that and bring other people into it or duplicate it so somebody else can do it the same way that you do it. So think about that, is do you have a process management, project management type of software that helps you do those things? And then transaction management. This is something that ultimately you would want a transaction manager to manage and not you personally. But in the beginning, you need something to help you with transaction management. It's very similar to process management, only specified for transactions. So it's a checklist that you upload documents to, helps you with digital signatures, helps you with tracking client escrow, different vendor information. And so 2 of the biggest ones out there are Skyslope and Dotloop. Many companies provide this, but this is something that you want to think about. If you don't have a transaction management software, it's very hard to manage. If you're doing 1 transaction a month, got it, you can do it on your own. But if you're going to do 10 a month, you're going to need some type of process and then person to help you with that process. And so think about transaction management and what are you doing in that sense. And if you haven't implemented something, go out there and start looking for it. That's really a foundational core piece of technology that you need and very low cost. CRM, maybe the most important one out of this, is what are you doing to track your leads and manage your customers? And there's tons of different pieces of software out there. There is no one right software. There is no perfect software. We've used many. Some have drawbacks. Some have great benefits. Some of the examples here are KV Core, Follow Up Boss, Top Producer, Sierra Interactive. There's many, many different types out there depending on what you need them to do, what level of service you need them to provide. But if you do not have a CRM in this business, or really any business, you are letting many, many, many leads fall through the cracks, and you are clearly don't have a process of follow-up and a way to touch those people and convert them long-term. For us personally, I believe this is one of the core things that has brought us major success over the years, is our utilization, high-level utilization of a CRM, and generating leads via the CRM tools, but then managing those leads and following up with them over the long term. Because in most businesses, you have a long-term sales cycle. especially in real estate, many of our initial contacts are not going to buy for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years out. And if you don't have a way to stay in touch with those people and track when you last talked to them, what the next action should be, it's going to be very hard to create a sustainable business, because you're always just chasing the thing that's right in front of you, when the thing that's right in front of you may not necessarily become a piece of business until sometime in the future. So you must have a CRM. And so think about that, and don't be wed to one system. Sometimes they can change, but at the same time, if it works for you and you use it, that is the best CRM you can possibly have. The one that you use is the best CRM you can possibly have. Okay, the next one, Google Workspace. So Google Workspace is a platform which most people use. Most people use Gmail, but you can build your entire business technology infrastructure around it via Google Sites, Google Docs, Google Drive, where you can store all of your information and have one central place. The days of having to have a central server or an office that everybody comes into and then has to share files are long gone. And you can build a very efficient, scalable business technology stack off of the Google Workspace. So it's something to look at. It's pretty minimal in terms of cost, gives you a lot of free storage, backs all of your documents up to the cloud. And we will do inside of the Google Workspace, integrate documents and slides and spreadsheets into that, and it makes it very efficient to share information and have one collective place for different people to come for resources or share in information. If you have a shared folder that a client can look at for their documents and the transaction manager can look at, you don't have to be emailing documents back and forth and being inefficient. And so Google Workspace is a great way to do this. Microsoft has Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Teams. There's different. Apple has other programs that are similar. Google's probably the most widely used and well-known, but this is super important just in the beginning to start building. So as you add people to your team and start building your business, you have the technology available to scale that quickly and easily. And then marketing is obviously a core piece of any type of business, but you really have to think about what is your marketing strategy. If you don't have one, that's a problem. I always say that the best realtor doesn't win, the best cook doesn't win, the best dog groomer doesn't win. It's the best marketer who wins in any one of those different areas of business. And so if you don't have a marketing effort, you are going to lose. There is no way that you are going to win and create a long-term sustainable business if you're not focused on marketing and having a deliberate plan on what you're going to do. And this is probably one of those areas that has a million different ways to market. You can do social media, you can do YouTube, you can do email marketing. I'll talk about those in a second, but you can also do old school mailers. You can market via TV, radio, print advertising. A lot of people don't do those things anymore, but there are still people that do those at a high level and integrate technology and build a really strong, sustainable business. So there's no right answer. You really have to think about what is it that you do best? How do you feel most comfortable in your marketing effort? And what is your plan? And really go all in and stick to those things. On this note, a huge message that I've been focusing on lately with our team and our agents is that you have to market. This has to be your marketing mindset. You have to create clients in the marketplace who believe that you are their agent, but you don't know they exist yet until they call you and say, hey, Dylan, are you taking on new clients? I need representation to buy this house. If you can create that through your marketing efforts, you are going to be good to go. You're going to have more business than you could ever have. But what a lot of agents do is they wait, they sit in their office or their car and they don't do anything. And they believe that there are people out in the community that are their clients. They believe their uncle is their client. They believe their classmate is their client, but they don't ever market to their sphere. They don't ever touch these people in the community through any type of value-added communication. And then those people go and buy from somebody who's marketing to them. And then they get heartbroken because they say, well, I can't believe my uncle went with this other agent because he was my client. That was never the case. If you don't have anything signed and you weren't marketing to them, they were never your client. And so think about this in the world that we're moving towards with buyer representation changing, is if you have to be out there marketing to people so they know what your value is before you ever come in contact with them. Or if they don't know you yet, the first thing that everybody does is they go online, they go on social media and they look you up. And if they can't find anything about you, they don't see any information, they don't see any value online, it is going to be much harder to earn their business and get them to commit to compensating you in the future if you don't have any type of presence out there for them to easily access and then validate that you are an expert in your market and what you're claiming to do and be. So think about that in your marketing effort. I believe video via social media and YouTube and email is the best way to do this. Video is pretty straightforward. You shoot a video, you talk about something, you put it on social media, you put it on YouTube, and then most importantly, you deliver it to your database via email. A lot of people may not be watching you on social media. They may not be following you on YouTube or subscribe to you on YouTube. So you have to put that information in front of them proactively. The best way to do that is via a mass email program, a mass email newsletter once a week. This is something that people don't do enough of, but definitely if you have 500 email addresses that you've collected over the last couple of years, those people should hear from you weekly. There are 5 to 10 transactions in that email list every year, guaranteed, if you stay in front of them. If you scale that email list up over time and you have 10,000 people, you're going to have 100 to 500 transactions inside of that email database, but you have to stay in front of them and you have to provide them with value. So think about what is your marketing strategy and your overall technology stack in your business. All right, so on the business side, and maybe I should have done this one first than the other one, but on the business side of things, we talked about inputs and outputs and having a clear plan on what you want to accomplish, what your goals are. But the first thing I like to start with, and we do this every year as a team, is we start with a vision board. And it's simply putting on paper, could be a slide deck online, or it could be the old school poster board and you cut out pictures from a magazine, but visually put on paper what your goals are. Is it a new car? Is it buying your first home? Is it going on a family vacation? Like, what are the things that you visually want to do? Because I think in most cases, we are visual learners. Visual aspects drive us stronger than just writing things down in the written word. And so create a vision board. If you've never done one before, there's lots of resources on how to do it online, but create a vision board of like, what are your goals? Is there a number, a big colorful number that you want to put on there, the number of transactions that you want to do, or your income goal, or whatever it is? But create a vision board, and then most importantly, look at it daily. Put it on the wall in front of you at your desk, put it on your bathroom mirror, but something that every day you will look at and draw inspiration from, because you know why you're doing what you're going to do that day. Why are you doing the inputs those are your outputs, right? Why are you getting up every day and having that disciplined effort and putting that input in order to get these outputs, which should be on your vision board? So that's the first thing, is start with that. And then your business plan is something that breaks down even further what equals what, right? The actual input. So I got to make X amount of calls per day to get X amount of appointments, to show X amount of clients' homes, to show X amount of people, or to get people to write contracts. And then at the bottom of that funnel, you're going to have a certain number of people that actually get closings. If you are just looking for one person, hoping that every single one person will become a closing, that's not how the world works. It's not how business works. And you have to have a plan on what are you going to do. How many transactions can you expect from your database versus your sphere of influence versus your marketing efforts and lead generation efforts? Write all those things down and do an analysis of it. And the first year, it'll probably be a mess and it won't work out the way you thought it was going to work out. But now you have actionable data that you can use to build your next year's business plan, and you can make adjustments. And maybe you find out, hey, I'm really good at this thing, but I'm really bad at that thing. I'm going to stop spending time and energy here. I'm going to spend way more time and energy over here and invest in that. And that will help you refine what your business looks like and where your efforts go, where your marketing dollars go, and will have huge dividends in the future. But if you don't do the plan to begin with and you have no idea how the business that you got this year happened, there's no way you can intelligently plan for the future. So you have to do a business plan. Lots of different resources out there. We have a workbook that we use every year. If you want access to that, just hit me up and I can share that with you. All right, your finances. Obviously, this is important. Even before you have money, you need to be planning for what does your money look like? What does your financial situation look like? And in real estate, definitely, you cannot spend all the money that you earn. You have to have a financial plan for the money that you earn, and a percentage needs to go towards taxes. A percentage needs to go towards reinvesting in your business. A percentage needs to go towards paying you and your family's bills. But it's not, if you collect $5,000, I spend $5,000. It's not how it works. And so you want to start that plan early and figure out what it is you want to spend money on. And then when you have that budget for business building or advertising or buying leads, you can really break down what your return on investment is on those efforts and see in your business plan if it makes sense to continue to spend that money. Maybe you need to spend more money because you have a really great ROI on one certain lead source or one certain effort, but you really got to have a financial plan to begin with for any of that to matter. So start working on that. And imagine if I had 100 grand to spend this year, what does that look like? That's another thing, is planning for the future and just visualizing what that could look like. You're never going to get there if you don't have a plan for it, and maybe just scale it down to 10,000 for this year. But one day, as the business grows, you'll get there. So you want to start with that plan, that big picture vision plan early. All right, scheduling. This goes back to the whole time blocking and having a plan for your business and what you spend your time on. I think it's very important. I've changed my view of time blocking and time budgeting over the last couple of years. And instead of really being strict about, I am going to make phone calls from 8 to 10 a.m. on Tuesday, really have time block priorities. So I will do X amount of this during the week. We know in this business, things pop up, things happen. You have to go and run off and do this. Life happens, kids get sick. And so it's really hard to keep a really stringent schedule. But if you have a commitment that I will do 4 hours of lead follow-up this week, and you don't do it by Friday, you don't get to take Saturday off, right? Those are the commitments that you want to make to yourself. I am going to spend 1 hour doing video this week to create content for the next 3 weeks. If you don't get that done, you stay late on Friday and you do it until it's done and you don't go home. I like to use lunch as an incentive. I usually do not eat in the morning. It's part of my routine, and I eat at noon. I start eating at noon every day. If I don't get the things, the priorities done in the morning that I need to get done, I don't eat. And that makes me upset because I'm hungry at that point and I want to eat and I really enjoy eating. And so that's an incentive to me to do the things that maybe I don't want to do, or the things that are uncomfortable in the morning, because then I know if I check all those boxes at noon, I can have lunch and then I'm happy and I can go on with the rest of my day. So time dedication versus like hardcore time scheduling, I think, is more important. So think about how you approach that. And do you have a plan every week? Do you have a plan for how many hours you want to spend on different things? Because then you can measure your ROI on that too. Is like, hey, if I'm spending 10 hours a week doing open houses and all of my business is coming from open houses, maybe you should be doing 20 hours open houses, not 10, if you want to double your business outputs. So it gives you the ability to make those smart decisions and evaluate what you're doing and what your time and effort return on investment is. And then last thing, I'm going to keep going back to video, but I look at this in a business sense because there's nothing more effective at scaling your time. And a lot of times video is talked about in a lead generation and client acquisition type of context, but video is also very important for business building. And primarily the ways that we use it is, one, for training. If you can shoot a video on how to do a certain thing and then provide that to agents to watch and duplicate, you don't have to individually train the agent every single time. Or if you did a training on it and you recorded it and they forget some stuff about it, they can go back and watch it and you don't have to show them a second time. And it also helps with things like virtual assistants. It's a huge part of the business nowadays. We've started to implement that this year in our business. And if you have everything that you want your virtual assistant to do, you should video it first, show them how to do it, walk them through that process, do a screen record, and then that person can take on that task and do the thing exactly the way you want it done, because you spent the time and utilized video to give them instruction on what needs to happen. And then video is great for communication, not necessarily out towards the outside world and the marketplace, but just internally on a team. Sometimes I'll write an email update, but sometimes I'll just shoot a 5-minute video update and talk through things that are going on just to the team members. And it makes my time more efficient because I don't have to spend a lot of time typing up a long email. And a lot of times in today's world, people will not read a long email or a long memo, but they'll watch a 3 to 5 minute video in the car, in between meetings, whatever it is. And it's a more personal way to communicate. So using video scales your time in a huge way, and it has to be implemented even on just the business operation side, but definitely on the marketing side of the business also. All right, relationships. This is extremely important. All of this is extremely important, but maybe this is one of those things that if you have everything else right, if this is wrong, it can really destroy. I mean, you can manage your business poorly and still have a very successful business. A lot of people do that. A lot of people spend money that they shouldn't. They don't budget well, they don't plan well, and they still have a successful business. But if you don't have good relationships in your business and in your life, it makes everything else very, very difficult. And so one of my favorite sayings is, who do you spend the most time with? You're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And this is a hard thing. This is a hard truth to come to grips with, but it's something that if you want to achieve at a high level and be successful, you cannot be around negative naysayers, people who do not support you, people who put negative energy into your brain. And unfortunately, sometimes these are some of the closest people around you, right? I run into people that it's their spouse or it's their parent or it's their, their best friend, and they're just always negative about everything. This isn't going to work out. You're a victim. All of these types of mentalities. And if you're around that, even if you're not that type of person, it is inevitable that that stuff creeps into your brain and you end up adopting that mentality. And so you really have to reevaluate who you spend your time with. I absolutely refuse to spend time with anybody who's negative and anybody who feels like they're a victim and doesn't have a can-do attitude, doesn't have a belief system that they can do whatever they want in life, because I just don't have any room for that. So think about that. Are there people in your life that maybe you need to remove from your life? And it can be uncomfortable, it can be hard, but it's almost necessary. It's absolutely necessary if you're going to get to that next level, because you cannot have people around you that are bringing you down all the time and holding you back. And then on the flip side of this, are you around people that elevate you? Are you around people, high achieving people, people at a higher level? You want to always be, I want to be the slowest person in the race. I want to be the stupidest person in the room. Like, I want to be the person that is looking up and chasing other people and learning from other people. And I want to surround myself with high achieving people that I can aspire to be like, because they're just going to drag me along. Because they're the 5 people I spend the most time with, they're going to raise my average. So think about that in your life. Is even if you don't have negative people in your life, do you have like extremely high functioning, high performing people that are bringing you up, that are dragging you forward when you're not totally feeling it that day? And there's a bunch of different ways to do this. Obviously, through going to conferences. This is one of my favorite things to do, is to go to these high level conferences and get information from people and then network with people who are doing things at a much higher level. Mentors and coaches. Mentors don't have to be anybody official. I mentor lots of people. I have lots of mentors, and we don't have an official mentorship relationship, but it's somebody that if I have a problem or I'm facing an issue, that I can call and just spend 5 minutes on the phone with, or maybe take out the coffee and talk through a thing. Somebody who's already been there, who's already done it, that can help you fast forward, not having to make the same mistakes and pitfalls. And so think about that. And then coaches, a lot of times a coach is someone that you pay for. And I've gotten huge value for paying for coaches who will, one, hold you accountable, one, bring an outside perspective, and just be there and have a weekly or every other week session with you, where you can really talk through, okay, what did I plan to accomplish last week? Did I do it? What are my plans to accomplish next week? Maybe what did I try this week that didn't work? Did you try it that way? But coaches are extremely valuable. And a lot of times as humans, if we're not paying for something, we don't actually implement it. And so a coach, if you pay a coach on a weekly basis to talk through things with you and set goals, and you don't do it, it's going to hurt you worse, because you're wasting your money. And so it's something to think about. A lot of people avoid the cost, but I'm a huge believer in coaching. And if you want formal, regular coaching, you're going to have to pay for it, but it's a huge, worthwhile investment to partake in, because you can get amazing value from somebody who's much higher level and have that regular interaction with them. And then finally, maybe first, is evaluate, are you somebody people want to be around? If you want to build a team and you want to create an organization and you want to do business with more people, you have to be the person that people want to be around. That's the bottom line. And I always use the Care Bear or vampire analogy, right? Do you shine and share, or do you darken and suck, right? When you walk into a room, the people say like, oh my goodness, so-and-so is here again, and they're going to have all this negative energy and ask me for stuff that I don't want to do. Or are you somebody that walks into the room high energy, excited, ready to go, wanting to help, wanting to contribute? That's the person people are going to want to be around. And think about that. even to the simplest aspect of how you answer the phone. I always tell the team, you need to answer the phone with a smile. You need to answer the phone excited, like this person's about to write you $1 million check, because they feel that. People will feel that energy through your voice. They feel that energy through the way you communicate. If you answer the phone like, oh my goodness, another person that is going to want to see property and I don't know if I want to deal with them this weekend, they're going to feel that. They're not going to want to work with you. And it's something that greatly hurts your ability to lead, convert, and acquire clients. So think about that every day. Is what kind of person are you? A Care Bear or are you a vampire? All right, and now just the scalability mindset. We went through kind of a bunch of different pillars, those 5 different pillars of your mindset, the systems that you got to have in order to start building a scalable business. And these are 3 key components to, if you're going to grow beyond just a couple of team members and yourself, you have to really put time and energy into developing. And the first one is building for where you're going and not where you're at. This is hard to do because a lot of times you don't want to spend money or time investing in a system that you don't think you need yet. But if you don't do those things, you will never get to the point where you need that thing, because you are going to hold yourself back from scaling beyond what you can personally do. And so a couple of examples of this is, one, an accounting system. A lot of times in the beginning in business or new agents, they say, I don't have any money, so I don't need an accounting system. Well, what about when you do have money and now you owe taxes and you can't track your expenses and you have a huge mess and you have to spend 2 weeks figuring all your stuff out at the end of tax year time? It's a huge pain. There's a lot of stress. Maybe you overpay on your taxes. Maybe you don't even know how much you got to pay. That gets you into more trouble. You have to build for where you're going, not where you're at. And this it applies to CRMs are another one. People say like, well, I only have 5 leads, so I don't need a CRM. Well, one day you're going to have 50 and one day you're going to have 100, and you're never going to get to 500 if you don't have a system to track those people. So especially with tech, you want to start using systems or build systems that are for the future, not necessarily what you need now. And that definitely also applies to hiring and the people that you have on your team. You need to hire for what you need in 6 months, not what you need today. And this is also hard to do because you think, I don't want to spend the money on this, or maybe I don't want to share in commissions with a buyer's agent or a listing assistant. But you're never going to have the ability to work on your business instead of in your business if you don't start to get help in your business and have people that will help you free up your time to do all of the things we just talked about. And that's what people always ask about, is they're like, how do you do all of this stuff? How do you do all of these different things? And at some point you have to come to the point where it's like, I don't have to do this anymore. I can hand this off to somebody else because I built a system for them. And then it frees up a block of time that you can spend doing the next thing. But this requires you hiring before you need somebody. If you wait till you need somebody and you need help, it's too late, because you don't have the ability now to build a system for them to follow. You don't have the ability to build resources for them to follow. And then it becomes this situation where you're unhappy with their performance when you probably didn't give them the guidance and information that they needed to do the job the way you wanted it to be done. And so it's just this vicious cycle, and then you never grow, because you say everybody I hire is terrible, but it's really because your leadership was terrible, your guidance was terrible, and so you never get beyond doing everything yourself, and it becomes very hard. So you have to start with, how do I start setting up systems now to hire people now before I need them, which will free up the time for me to build additional resources and the things that I need to scale. And then duplicating yourself. In any great system or organization, there are no single points of failure. And a lot of times our ego strokes us, and we want to feel super, super important, that I am the only person that can list homes because I am the best listing agent there is in my market, and nobody can write a listing description like I can. And when you have that mindset and you don't believe that somebody else can do it like you, and you can't trust somebody else to duplicate your efforts, again, you can never grow, you can never scale. And your goal is to work yourself eventually out of a job. The system should be able to operate completely without you if you've built a good system and you've built a solid team. And so you have to think about that in everything that you do. Is, am I the single point of failure? If tomorrow I just went dark for 2 weeks, would the whole entire operation stop, or could it go on without me? Could people figure it out? Could the leaders that I have fostered and trained stand up and take my role because they're confident in their abilities and they know 99% of what they need to know? They just have to figure out the last 1%. It's a huge mindset shift that has to happen, is duplicating yourself in maybe singular roles, but one day you want to be able to duplicate yourself out of your role entirely and start small. So you have to start small with transaction management. Can you duplicate yourself and train a transaction manager to upload paperwork and do paperwork as good as you can? If you can, then do that, and that'll free up your time to do more lead follow-up, maybe do more lead generation, do more marketing, which will allow you to build, and the business will start to grow. But you got to think about duplicating yourself and not being critical to any single point of your operation, because that'll hold you back in a huge way. Okay, so getting to the end here, some takeaways. So again, these are mindset things, but these are definitely things that you can just take away and use this and implement and start to build all these different plans. So the first one is start small. All of this can be very overwhelming. I remember going to conferences and seeing people selling 500 homes, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm just trying to sell 20, right? What do I need to know about selling these 500 homes? But the principles that it takes to get to 25 or 30 homes are the same that it's going to take you to get to 300. And so you just got to start small. What do I got to do today to do one more transaction a month? And then one day that thing will be, what do I got to do today to do 10 more transactions a month? And just aim for 1% better every day. People want to have these massive shifts and massive gains in their business and in their life in a short amount of time. It's just not realistic. And in most cases, it's not even possible. But if you aim to be 1% better every day, by the end of the year, you're 365% better. And you're in a place that you never thought you would be, because you just started small and you made a small improvement every single day. And that thing can be very simple. If you want to be an amazing buyer's agent, study a script every single day. Study your value proposition every single day. Study how to have the compensation conversation every single day. And by the end of 2 weeks, you're going to be a master at that thing, but you just started doing one thing at a time instead of being very overwhelmed and saying, I don't know how to learn the whole system, and there's so many aspects to it. Just do it one day at a time. I tell new agents all the time, one of the most important things you can do as a brand new agent is know the contract inside and out. All 14 pages of our Hawaii purchase contract, you need to know exactly what page L2 is on and what L2 says, right? And if you can do that, you will be very confident in having your conversations with your clients. But how do you do that? You just read one page a day. When you wake up in the morning, in the middle of the day, and at night, you just read the page, read it a couple of times, and then ask some questions to your broker or to your mentor. But you do that for 2 weeks, you've read all 14 pages multiple times, and I guarantee will be you'll probably have a level of expertise higher than 80% of your peers in the industry, because you put that time and effort in and just did one page a day. 14 pages can seem like a lot, but one page a day is definitely doable. So start small. Some book recommendations is Good to Great and Atomic Habits. These talk about this in a lot more detail, and highly recommend either getting an audiobook or reading those books to expand more on this topic. And then embrace delayed gratification. This is something that humans are, especially in our day and age, and our generation have a very hard time with, is that, are you okay putting the work in today and not seeing any results for a year? Because a lot of times I get this all the time from agents, hey, I showed property for 2 weeks and nobody wrote an offer, and they're all depressed and they're frustrated. And then in week 3, they write 3 offers and get 3 escrows, right? But if you quit at the end of week 2 and you don't do week 3, you never get to those 3 escrows. And so you have to have that delayed gratification mindset. Wake up every day like something amazing is going to happen. And when it doesn't happen, you just wake up the next day and believe it again. And then sooner or later, something great is going to happen. I heard a great quote recently that if you want to change your life, you have to be able to not see results for a year. If you want to change many people's lives, you have to be able to work and not expect to see any results for 10 years. And if you want to change the entire world, you have to be able to put in work and not expect to see any results till after you die. So you never even get to see the results. And if you think about the people in history, the Abraham Lincolns, the John Kennedys, the Martin Luther Kings, those people did work and they never saw the impact of their work till long after they were dead, and their impacts continue to go on for decades later and still impact us today. So think about that when you're frustrated because you did 2 days of work and you don't feel like you got any investment out of it. You're not going to change your life that way. You got to be able to at least delay gratification for a year. And then set a vision and make a plan. There's a lot of that talked about in the previous slides, but this is a quote that I love: is people don't fail because people don't fail because they dream too big. They fail because they dream too small, right? A lot of times people set goals that are just very realistic and very small, and then they achieve them, and it's not satisfying, or it doesn't change their life the way that they thought it would. So dream big if it's okay. If you plan to make 500 grand next year and you make 450 and you failed at it, would you still be happy? But if you plan to make 50 grand and you made it, would you be happy? You got to think about that and dream way bigger than you think is possible, because it definitely is possible. And even if you don't make it completely, you're going to be way further ahead than you were if you set a small goal. So think about that. And then I said this multiple times earlier, is there is no one way. I like to share the stuff that has worked for us and the things that we do, but it may not make sense. And there's plenty of teams and other organizations that have succeeded at a very high level doing things very differently than we do it. So you have to find your way. And the only way to find your way is to expose yourself to as many people as possible who are doing things that you want to do and see how they're doing it. What are the systems that they're using? What are their mindsets and daily practices that they're engaging in? And so exposing yourself to the massive amount of people, and that's something that we're going to do with this series, is bring on as many people from different perspectives as possible, and hopefully drop a few things in there that will help you to get to where you want to go, because it's something that relates to you and makes sense for your journey. And then, are you ready? So this is the last part of this presentation, and a question that you have to ask yourself. And the first one is, are you ready to be a leader? This is something that a lot of people just don't want to do. They don't want to lead people. They don't want to manage people. The reality is you're never going to have a large business or a large organization if you don't lead people. And you really can't do a small business well if you don't lead people. Every day we lead our clients. We lead people in escrow. We lead home inspectors. We lead vendors. We lead our mortgage broker. We have to be somebody. And if we're not leading them, they're leading us. And they're probably leading us in a direction that isn't in alignment with where we want to go. And that's why we're not getting to where we want to be. And so you have to be a leader in some sense, and it takes study. You have to read about it, learn about it, watch podcasts about it, YouTube videos. There's lots of great leaders that have gone through history or in the world today, and you just want to learn more about it and be a leader at whatever level you're comfortable with. You don't have to lead 100 people. You can lead 10, but if you do that at a high level, those 10 people will be very successful because of you, and it's going to be very satisfying. I love this quote. If you want to go far, go alone. Or if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, let's go together, right? A lot of people want to do things on their own time and go fast by themselves, and that's far. That's fine. You can go fast for a short amount of time by yourself. But if you want to go really far and go really big, you got to do it together. You got to do it as a team, and that team is going to need a leader. And if it's going to be you, you got to make a decision that it's going to be you. Second one is to never feel ready. In any type of business, when we grow and get to the next level, you're never ready. You're never ready to get your real estate license. You're never ready to get into your first escrow. You're never ready to do your 10th escrow. Every single day, you're going to run into challenges that you're not ready for. And if your mindset is, I need to be ready for everything before I can do anything, you're never going to do anything because you're never going to be ready. So really think about that. Being ready should never be a reason that you don't do something. There's no way you can ever be ready. None of us are ever ready to be parents, and we still do it, and we figure it out along the way. And so that same principle has to be applied to businesses. Don't wait to be ready. Just be as prepared as you can possibly be, and then figure it out along the way. I love to just jump off the cliff and build the plane on the way down. Not necessarily the best way to do business. A lot of times it drives the team crazy, but that's always been my mentality, is I'm not going to wait for permission, and I'm not going to wait to be ready. I'm just going to do the thing that I feel like needs to be done, and I'm going to figure it out along the way. And then we talked about this in the beginning. You got to be okay with being uncomfortable. There is no growth in comfort. And this is something that holds a lot of folks back as they get to a certain level in their career where they're comfortable and they never go beyond that. And that's okay. If that's your goal and that's very deliberate and that's intentional, I have no issues with that. But if you feel comfortable, like I'm just cruising, last year kind of looked like the year before and the year before, and I'm okay with it, really evaluate, is that really what you want? Because there's a saying that I love: you can have 1 year of experience. Let me start over. You can have 10 years of experience, or you can have 1 year of experience 10 times in a row, right? And they're different things. 10 years of experience as you've grown and progressed and done things at a higher level over the course of 10 years, or you can have 1 year of experience 10 times in a row. If you've done the same thing for the last 10 years over and over and over again, you're not growing, you're probably very comfortable. And if that's the goal, that's cool. But if that's not the goal, you really have to evaluate changing what you do, maybe venturing into something that's uncomfortable, making some significant changes in your practices, in your life, in your relationships, in your technology, in your business, all of those different things if you want to grow. So there's only growth in discomfort. So think about that as you go forward. All right. Of course, let me know if you have any questions. Always here to help. There's lots of information on how to get in touch with me, but this is my contact information. This QR code goes to my Linktree. Got lots more information. We got YouTube channels dedicated to different things. There's a calendar link to book a meeting with me. And then all of the social media handles and contact information is on there. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this was helpful. This will be the first, like I said in the beginning, of a series of videos like this. If you have somebody who you would like to see do this type of presentation, please let me know. I'd be happy to reach out to them and book it for you. You don't even have to tell them that you made the request. I'm happy to make the call for you. And I want to learn too. So if there's somebody out there who's doing something at a high level, doesn't have to be real big picture like this. It can be somebody who does open houses really amazing, or somebody who door knocks and does that really amazing, or whatever it is. If somebody out there is doing something at a high level, or you're doing it at a high level and you're watching right now, reach out to me. I'd love to book you on a session to do this. And we're going to do this at noon on Fridays, as many times as we can, based on availability of speakers. But appreciate you guys watching. Again, if you have any questions, you can hit me up in the contact information there or on the QR code, and we'll see you on the next one. Aloha.